Start with the mangers, 4 of them, cast in bronze, with iron chains bolted deep into the stone floor beside each one. Horses do not need chains. A horse needs a fence and a reason to stay inside it. Somebody built this room for animals that had learned to want something else. And there is no hay. That is the detail that should land first. No grain, no fodder, none of the ordinary sweetness a horse lives on. Whatever King Diomedes was feeding his mares, it did not grow anywhere in Thrace. This is the 8th labor. It is the one where the story stops being about monsters and starts being about the man who made one. When we left Heracles, he had just done something almost nobody expected. He took the Cretan bull without killing it, delivered it alive exactly as ordered, and watched Eurystheus turn it loose out of pure cowardice. 7 labors down, and the strongest man in Greece had just proved he could hold back. Nobody asks him to hold back this time. Eurystheus sends him north to Thrace for the Mares of Diomedes. He does not say alive. He does not have to. The animals will settle that question on their own. Apollodorus gives the order in a single flat line. Bring the Mares of Diomedes the Thracian to Mycenae. Ancient writers do this constantly. They hand you the most disturbing thing in the story in the tone of a shipping manifest. Thrace sat at the northern edge of the Greek world, past Macedon, across the cold shoulder of the Aegean. To an Athenian, it was the frontier. Famous for good horses, hard winters, and kingdoms with no particular interest in what Greeks considered civilized. Its king was Diomedes, not the Diomedes who fought at Troy, a different one and a worse one. Apollodorus names his parents outright, Ares, god of war, and the nymph Cyrene. He ruled the Bistones, whom Apollodorus calls a very warlike Thracian people. That parentage matters more than it looks. Heracles is a son of Zeus. Diomedes is a son of Ares. This is the first labor where the hero faces someone with a divine father of his own, and the war god's son did not inherit any instinct for restraint. Here is how the mares were fed. Diomedes welcomed travelers. Strangers who reached his hall got everything a Greek would expect: a place at the fire, a hot meal, a bed for the night, and in the morning they were taken to the stable. A modern audience hears that and thinks, cruel king. A Greek audience heard something far worse. Guest friendship, xenia, was not etiquette, it was sacred law, and Zeus enforced it personally under the title Zeus Xenios. The god who protected strangers was Heracles' own father. This is the same crime that starts the Trojan War. Paris accepts a man's hospitality and leaves with his wife, and 10 years later a civilization is ash. Diomedes commits that crime every time a tired man knocks on his door. Thrace has been running a slaughterhouse and calling it a kingdom. Then there are the animals themselves. 4 mares, and this should unsettle you more than any lion or hydra ever did. A lion eating a man is just a lion. A horse eating a man is a category error. The horse was the animal Greeks trusted most. It carried their heroes, pulled their chariots, stood on their coins. Homer's warriors love their horses by name and grieve when they die. Diomedes took the one creature that stood for nobility and taught it to eat the people it was built to carry. Later writers gave them names. In Hyginus they are Podagus, Lampon, Xanthus, and Dinus. Swift-foot, shining, blonde, and terrible, 3 perfectly pleasant horse names, and one where somebody clearly stopped pretending. And nothing in the sources says these mares were born wrong. No curse, no god, no monstrous parentage. That is the real horror of the 8th labor. The Nemean lion was invulnerable by nature. These were horses, and somebody did this to them on purpose. Heracles does not go alone. Apollodorus says he sailed with a band of volunteers, men who chose this. Almost everything else about this labor is grim, so hold on to that one detail. Somewhere in Greece, there were people who heard what was happening in Thrace and asked to come along. One of them is Abderus, a son of Hermes from Opus in Locris and Heracles' lover. Apollodorus is direct about that. He is young. Every version stresses that he is young. Remember him. The story is about to make you. They come ashore on the Thracian coast. No siege, no embassy, no herald sent ahead to announce terms. Heracles has read the situation correctly. There is nothing here to negotiate with. They go straight for the stable. Apollodorus, he overpowered the grooms who were in charge of the mangers. The grooms, the men who did the feeding, who knew exactly what the job was and kept turning up for work. Then he does the only sane thing available to him. He unchains 4 man-eating horses and drives them toward the water, because the ship is at the water, and because whatever else is true about these animals, they are still horses, and horses can be driven. Then the alarm goes up. The Bistanes in arms came to the rescue. That is Apollodorus's phrase, and notice who he says they were rescuing. Not the travelers, not the dead, the horses. So Heracles has to make a choice, and it is the one that ruins him. He cannot fight a Thracian army and hold 4 horses at the same time. He puts the reins in Abderus' hands. Hold them, I will be back. He turns and meets them. The fight gets almost no room in the sources. He breaks the Bistanes, puts them to flight, and their king ends up in his hands. Apollodorus spends more words on the mare's pedigree than on the battle that won them. And then he walks back down to the shore, for the boy he left holding the reins. Apollodorus gives it 7 words, but the mares killed him by dragging him. That is the entire sentence. No monster from a cave, no curse, no god. Abderus was killed by the animals his own side had just stolen, while the man who left him there was busy winning. Every labor before this one cost Heracles effort. This one costs him a person. And unlike the madness that killed his family, there is no Hera to blame here. He made the call himself. He handed over the reins. Now the part everyone remembers, and it comes from Diodorus Siculus, not Apollodorus. In Diodorus, Heracles does not simply kill Diomedes in the fighting. He throws him to his own mares. Listen to Diodorus' actual wording. He satisfied the hunger of the animals with the flesh of the man who had taught them to violate human law in this fashion. The man who taught them. Diodorus is completely clear about where the crime started, and it was never with the horses. And then comes the detail that turns revenge into something much stranger. After Diomedes, they calm down. Diodorus says simply that he had them under his control. The cure for the monster turned out to be the man who made it. Before he sails, Heracles buries Abderus and founds a city beside the grave. He names it Abdera. Apollodorus records it in passing, almost as a footnote. And here is the part that genuinely surprised me. Abdera was real, a working Greek city on the Thracian coast for close to 1,000 years. The ruins are still there. Think about what that actually is. A grave marker the size of a town. Heracles cannot undo the decision he made on that beach, so he does the only thing available at his scale. He builds something permanent, puts his friend's name on it, and it outlives them both by centuries. The mares go south to Mycenae, and Eurystheus, who has learned nothing whatsoever since the bull, lets them go. Apollodorus says they wandered as far as Mount Olympus, where they were destroyed by wild beasts, delivered as ordered, released as usual. Unless you ask Diodorus, who says Eurystheus dedicated them to Hera instead, and that their bloodline survived, down to the reign of Alexander of Macedon. Which quietly implies that the most famous horse in history, Alexander's Bucephalus, had man-eaters somewhere in the family tree. The 8th labor is the hinge of the whole series. Every monster before it was born or cursed into being. This one was trained, by a king, deliberately, for his own entertainment. Heracles beats it by giving it exactly what it was taught to want. He wins by using the thing Diomedes built, and it costs him someone he loved. One last thing, 7 labors were about animals. This one was about a man, and the 9th goes further still. Eurystheus sends Heracles across the sea to take the war belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, from a woman who has done nothing wrong at all. Follow the story. It stops being about monsters from here.